Hey y'all, welcome back to another Connect Key Foundation Java Jumpstart video. Today we are talking about for loops. So in the last video, you guys talked about a type of loop called while loops. This time we're talking about a different type of loop. So how does a for loop work? There are three requirements. First, you need the loop control variable. Then you need a conditional, and then you need to change the loop control variable after each iteration. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense right now, so let's jump into the code so I can show you guys exactly what I mean. Okay, so let's start building our for loop. I'm using that to tell my code that I'm creating a for loop. Now I'm going to establish a loop control variable. I'm going to have it an integer called I, which I will set to 0. Then I want this loop to run as long as I is less than 5. And after each iteration, or every time that the loop runs, I want it to increase I by 1. So now let's write the code. So what do I want it to do each time it loops? For now, let's just say that I want it to print I. So each time that this loop runs, it's going to print I. Let's see what I get. So it prints out 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The first time it loops, I is equal to 0, so it prints that out. Then I increase it by 1, I becomes 1, it prints 1. Then I increase it again by 1, I becomes 2, so it prints out 2, and so on and so forth. So that's a simple for loop. Let's talk about enhanced for loops, which let you work with pre-made lists. What a for loop basically does is that it says, for each item in this preset list, do blank, and whatever is inside my curly braces is what I want it to do. So let's look at an example of that. So here I have a list of numbers, and my list is called numbers. That's important later when we're making our loop, that we know what the name of this list is. Don't worry about how I made this list, we'll talk about that later, but all we need to know for now is that I have a list called numbers and it contains 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I want my code to print out each of the values in that list. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to use an enhanced for loop. So I'm going to say for each int num. So here I'm telling it what type of variable it is, and here I'm telling it that it's a number. Or I'm just saying, I'm giving a name to each of these individual values. In the list numbers, I want it to print whatever number it is on. So what this should do is it should go through the list numbers and print out each one of these individual values. So let's run that code now. So here I get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 because it printed out all of the values in my list. So that's it for this video. Those are the two types of for loops. The first type is useful for if you just want to do something a set number of times, and the second type, an enhanced for loop, is more useful for if you have a preset list and you want to go through it and do a specific action with each of the items in this list. Thank you.